Hi there, everyone. My name is Max Young, and I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of Vroman's Bookstore to tonight's event. Tonight, we are lucky to have with us Melina Davies, who will be in conversation with Jamie-Lynn Sigler. Again, we're so grateful that you could come to these events and continue to support us throughout this time. If you'd like to support us as well as Melina, you can go ahead and purchase her book right there by clicking that green button. And yeah, we hope you do that. Also, tonight's event does include a Q&A portion. So if you would like to ask a question at any point, you can go ahead and click the Ask a Question button down over here, and we'll get to those at some point in the event. But with all that out of the way, I'll go ahead and introduce our guest for tonight. Melina Davies is a self-taught cook and is the owner of the wildly popular LA restaurant and marketplace, Olive and Thyme. She is also a USC graduate and currently lives in Studio City. And with her is Jamie-Lynn Sigler, who is an actress and singer, and she also hosts the podcast Mama Said, as well as Pajama Pants. But with that all out of the way, I'll go ahead and let them take over. Thanks, y'all.
Hello. You get that echo? Okay. Hello, Melina.
Hi.
How is everybody? Well, hold on. I've got a bit of an echo, so I want to make sure. Are you hearing any echo?
It just went down. I think I'm good.
All right. I just have to lower my volume, but hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Still too much?
Yeah.
That better? Oh, we've got some help.
If you have any headphones around, I think those would help a lot.
All right.
Yeah, I would say try and pop those on if you could.
Headphones for me.
Yeah, for you.
Okay. I'm going to go get my headphones. Give me 1 minute. Hold on.
Sure.
She's going to end up having babies come back with her because they're going to be so happy.
I know, you're like, she's out of the room.
It happens. It happens. Well, everybody, I'm going to just kind of say hi to some people.
Cool.
I don't have a little typing, my keyboard. So I do want to say I see Mike Cohen also, who I appreciate very much for the support, especially during all this. Kelly, all the way from Hawaii, my kids, of course, and my brother, and Lynn's, Andrew, so appreciate it. Carly and Colleen, of course, who is telling us there's still an echo, which we understand and we're dealing with. But I appreciate you guys all here. Oh, looks like she's back with her headphones, or she's reconnecting now. So there's always some sort of technical difficulties. I'm just so glad it's not me. I'm not gonna lie, because I thought it would be me doing it. So yeah, I don't know. It's not me. I'm being centered. And now my kids are crying. The joys of COVID and the new world of doing this. So I hope you guys have, for those of you guys who have bought it, have figured this out. I'm sorry, I hear my kid crying. I think she needs to be invited back into the green room.
I just went ahead and invited her again.
Out of the green room. There she goes.
Yeah.
There she's back.
You good?
Yes, got you back.
Okay. There we go.
She's got a microphone.
Okay. Echo?
No echo.
All right. Apologies in advance.
That's okay. We went through the whole thing. We said hi to everybody. We got through it.
Oh, great. So it's over?
So it's over. We're done. Bye. Thanks for coming. We'll see you later.
All right. Well, I am somebody that can proudly say that I'm a personal friend of Melina. And I actually first met her through her food, our mutual friend, Lindsay, and he brought me to Olive and Thyme, and I was blown away. I didn't realize that a place could be as equally gorgeous and chic, where I could go shopping and have the most delicious, thoughtful lunch, all before I picked my son up from preschool. But then I got to meet the woman behind it, Melina, And one of my favorite things about chefs is learning their origin story, what got them into food. And you truly are, which I love, you coined, you're a home chef. And to me, that means it's attainable and it allows all of us to achieve these gorgeous meals. And so if you don't mind, Melina, just telling us all about how you got started with cooking and fell into your love of food.
Yeah, I mean, look, I take the word chef really, really carefully. I mean, I didn't go to culinary school. I respect the word chef, firstly, with so much admiration, because there's some incredible chefs, all around the world who've worked extremely hard to go through that process. So I do call myself a home chef first. I grew up cooking. It's something that my culture, is a big part of my culture. I've done it since I was a young child. It's just something ingrained in me. Mm-hmm. Did I ever think it would lead to a career? Of course not. But it did become something for me that invited, as I grew older, that invited people into my home, that made, a way that I showed people I love them, even without me knowing it. And I found myself loving it more and more. And again, it was never overly complicated the way I did it. It was just taking really great, simple, clean, fresh ingredients and cooking that in a simple way. And I found it, I found the food to be really good. I found it to be healthy. I found it to be interesting. I found it that I would experiment more with it. And it turned into something that was really special. And I found that my friends loved it. I found that people I didn't know loved it. I found that it brought me joy. And I found that it brought people who didn't know each other joy, who came over, and they would stay longer. They would sit around the table longer. They wouldn't kind of wander off, which I think people tend to do sometimes when they're at other people's homes. And I noticed something interesting about that. I noticed that people actually looked at each other in the face or in the eyes. I noticed that people actually spoke to each other. I noticed that people listened more. And so I started to see that what was bringing me joy, which was standing around the stove and cooking. And people would say to me, sit down, like stop standing in the kitchen. And that's something I really like to do. It's not a bother for me.
Yeah.
And so people would say, like, stop working. And it's not work. It's something I like to do. And I would see other people, and I'm like an observer when I do that. I observe what's happening around me. And I would see that people started to connect. And so I turned that, I think one day my husband said, if you spend another $1,000 on a dinner party, and I'm going to kill you, because I kept doing it every other day just because it was joyful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned it into a business. I turned it into something, yes, do we do, simple breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but it was joyful for me to run a restaurant. Although I didn't know something about running a restaurant, I never worked in a restaurant, but I met my neighborhood, I met my community, I met I met people I didn't know anything about. I learned about people, and that just really brought a fullness that I never had before. And it was over food, which I knew the food could do that.
Yeah.
So it was something special.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I always think anyone that has like a true intention and love behind anything they're putting out in the world, everybody will feel it or taste it or whatever it is. So for you, that it transmits through everything you do, especially in this cookbook. So then I want to lead you. So how old is Olive and Thyme? And then how did we get to this book?
Believe it or not, we're almost a decade old. We opened,
wow, which
is funny that we talk about this now. We opened February 1st, 2018, which was during the recession, which we didn't, dumbest time to open. Mm-hmm. We put all of our money up. My husband and I, you know, put our house up, cashed out all of our retirement money to build a restaurant, because at that time nobody would ever give somebody who's never owned a restaurant, worked in a restaurant, any money. I remember my best friend at the time said, "You're not Mario Batali. Like, what are you thinking?" And we, you know, we somehow made it, and we made it again because, like you said, I think the love. And we went from a small, tiny little location, and the community supported us, to this bigger location. And I think, again, we've survived this, you know, pandemic because of people like you in our community and our friends who've supported us. And before this happened, we, client, you know, customer of mine, Eileen, who said, you know, would you ever do a cookbook? And I was like, nobody ever wants me to do a cookbook. And a year later I said, look, I think we're ready. I think it's time. You know, my wheels always turn, and when a project's over and I think we're ready for the next thing, we're looking for our next location, I think we're ready. And she had, Colleen, a publisher, a prospect. She said, I know the perfect person. She connected us, and it happened. And then of course this happened, but yeah, you know, it's something special.
It was bound to happen. I mean, we as your friends, first, I want to just go back to Olive and Thyme for a minute, because I will say, when you walk in there, it's not a place that you just grab a quick lunch. I think everybody goes there to connect with whoever they're meeting for lunch, breakfast, dinner, and have a lovely meal. Do you know what I mean? It has that vibe. There's different restaurants that you know, see people on their phones, or you see them like quickly between work grabbing a lunch, but it's always people that have their electronics down and are looking in the eye at the other person. Like you've created that space, and I really appreciate that as your customer and your friend. But one of my favorite things that Lindsay, we'll mention her a million times, told me when she first met you, and that I had to meet you and come to your house, was because you are an expert of going into your pantry and grabbing 7 random ingredients and making the most extraordinary meal. So what are your hacks for somebody that before buying this book or before opening it, what should their pantry be full of?
So look, I think, you know, I touched upon experimenting, and I think that I always say, like, cooking should be fun, right? And it's not, like, baking is one thing. Cooking, I think, is all about experimenting. And my best recipes is about, let me throw a little bit of this and do this and see how it tastes like. Oh, that's terrible. Let me add something else. And I think if your pantry has the basic essentials, right? So for me, I always have like a great tomato paste, like a double concentrated tomato paste. Like I have a Muti, which is like a great brand of double concentrated tomato paste. I always have like a fleur de sel, which is like a great, you know, salt, and then a fine grated salt. I always have a really great olive oil. You know, I love a cooking oil. You know, I love to have a great, make my own marinara sauce. But if you don't want to make a marinara sauce, which is very easy to make, like, make sure that you have a canned marinara, like, you know, a canned marinara sauce that you love. I love to have a good vinegar. I love to have, you know, dried beans. Like, you know, I think it's really important to make sure that you've got onions, garlic, herbs. You know, fresh herbs are always important to have. You know, make sure you have dried, you know, fennel. Like, just make sure that you have all the dried seasonings that you can go and like mash up and do something. Make sure you have dried pasta. Make sure you have pancetta in your freezer, even if you don't want to have it, you know, in your refrigerator fresh all the time. Make sure you can have, you know, I always like find a way to think to myself, okay, if somebody comes over and I run out of fresh food that I just made, and they stayed, you know, if we were having a dinner and they stayed an extra 3 hours, which I love when people stay a little extra, and I've got to whip up something. Do I have flour that I can make dough? Do I have, you know, do I have a pasta that I can make? Do I have, you know, a quick vegetable that I can stir up, some mushrooms and some bell peppers and some onions that I can just make a quick stir fry? Just the basic fresh vegetables and some dried herbs and some olive oil and garlic that I can just throw something together You know, if I just have frozen peas, dried pasta, an onion, and garlic, I can make a beautiful pasta for somebody. You know, as soon as there's something there, you can do, you know, you can make a great meal for somebody. Somebody comes in an hour late for dinner, you can throw something together. And I think that that's important. Even if you have an egg, you know, and some fresh vegetables, you can throw a frittata together. So I think that as soon as you have the basics, and you don't have to freeze up and be like, I have to order out, you can still throw a nice fresh meal for somebody.
Absolutely. Well, somebody like me, I think prior to quarantine and this whole situation, I wasn't much of a home chef, but a lot of us have been forced to be during these past couple of months. And I find myself experimenting a little bit because I have guidance from the book. But what are some good recipes in Olive and Thyme, and some dishes that for somebody like me that's just starting out and venturing into cooking that you would suggest, like, to start with?
Honestly, so this is why this book was, I mean, for the pandemic we're in, but this book, the reason I made this book specifically was for people who come into the restaurant and like look and go, we could never do this. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's so, it's actually anyone can do this, because I did it. I wasn't trained. I've never, you know, worked in a restaurant. This is something that any home cook could do who's training themselves. Is you can 100%. Oh, by the way, Andrew Ball is saying we're still waiting, right? So I think he's having difficulty coming in. I don't even know if that means anything for anybody, but he's stuck.
Just checking, he said.
But just checking, yes. I think that guy's stuck.
Well, it might be dangerous for me to learn how to make your avocado burrata toast, because that's a real dangerous
so easy, right? But I mean, all of these recipes are for everyone. They're as simple for everybody to do. They're really step by step. And I even like I've kind of followed people who've bought the book on Instagram, and they've said like, I don't cook, and I've learned how to do some of these, and I can't believe it came out. These are all very simple recipes that you all can do, which is why it's called what it's called. Is, you know, simple is made extraordinary, that everyone can do these recipes. And there's a couple of them, you know, maybe the like spaghetti's a little bit more complicated, but most of these recipes are ones that you guys can all do. And I ask that give it a try and see how it turns out. You'll be really surprised that you can do that.
Yes. And you really do explain, and you do a really good job of kind of giving the step-by-step and the hacks and how to do it properly. And what I also appreciate, because what's gotten very popular is these boards, right? These beautiful cheese boards. And let me get to the back. And you just told me your husband, Christian, did the beautiful graphics of drawing out, kind of mapping out how you could make one of these boards yourself.
Yeah, so that's like one of our most popular things are these cheese boards that we do, and these like charcuterie boards, and you know, and everyone's always not like, I do tons of them for my kids' parties, and we cater a bunch of them. And
it's like a decoration.
Like, it's like art, right? And
yes.
Everyone's always like, it's impossible. Like, how do you do this? And so we thought, wouldn't it be clever? And you could do this in a large scale and a small scale. How can you do this, you know, for everybody to understand? So when we were kind of doing this at home, and again, everything here was done at home. I thought if my husband, who's, you know, an artist, I thought if he drew it out for everyone, exactly where each thing goes. The rosemary goes here. This is the type of cheese that goes here. You know, this is where the fruit goes. And we named everything out and really laid it out as a step-by-step process, not just a picture, but actually diagrammed it for everybody. It was a game changer for everyone. They could see exactly where everything was. Sorry, that's my cat's tail. It would just really be easy. It would simplify it. And again, you could scale it from it's, you know, in the book, it's a large scale, but you could scale it down and really understand. And that goes for the cheese boards, the lox platter. Every different platter is kind of placed in that book for everyone. I
love that so much. It's really going to give me it's like makes me want to throw a party when we can again, and impress people. Now that I see the llamas, I was like, I guess this is old school days of throwing kids parties. But don't tell me that. One day. They will. And you really just capture, like you're saying, I mean, this is attainable. This is for your home, for your family, for your friends, and just slightly extraordinary. What are some
point, right? The
yes.
point is to help people understand, those small things, like, to give somebody a playlist of a dinner party that you had. The idea of, like, if you forget, like, I don't have the money to let's say, I don't know, buy everybody a gift, and I just threw a wedding. But if you send everybody a Spotify link of your wedding songs, like, that's a nice gesture.
Very.
And it costs nothing to do. Those little things, I think, are the ways that people can think outside the box and not have to spend a lot of money doing. So those
the thoughtful things always cost no money.
More. Yeah, they mean more than anything else.
Do you have any favorite recipes?
I do.
Personal favorites?
Of course, the chicken soup is honestly one of my favorite recipes. The crepes is another one that's really great. I think honestly, which is one of the more difficult ones, the spaghetti is hands down one of my favorite recipes to do. It's been a minute. The carrots and the pomegranate is a great recipe. I've heard the beet toast is everybody's favorite recipe.
Oh, I'm dying to try that. Even if you don't like
beet toast. There's a tuna salad in there. It's not a traditional tuna salad, but like arugula tuna salad, which is great. It reminds me of Italy a lot. It's like a white bean tuna salad. And you can't go wrong with my deviled eggs. I'm sorry, they're probably the best deviled eggs. That's a lot. I know it's not one, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, and you really cover everything. I mean, you cover even, like, if you're starting at breakfast, from granola and parfaits to quiches. I mean, there's something for everyone, for every taste.
There is a recipe. I guess my most favorite, just thinking back, there's a recipe that my dad taught me. It's probably the first recipe that my dad ever taught me without realizing he was teaching me. He cooked me and my family, my brothers will remember this, who are on pork chops. And he does a very simple, like, breaded pork chop that I still cook for my family now. And it's just a simple, like, it's like a thin pork chop that you put on, like, an egg and breadcrumbs and you fry it up. And so it's nostalgic for me. And I cook it, like I said, for my family, and my dad lives with us now. And it's just one of those things that just brings back a lot of memories. So I think that might be my number one.
Oh, I love that. I have a question. So if I'm going to have a dinner party and I'm going to be cooking, I want to make a salad, some sides, and an entree. How does I always find this is the hardest part of cooking, is how to, like, plan it out, time it out. Where do you begin with creating all your dishes, or just like an evening, let's say?
I cover this in the book too. And I kind of time it out and help guide people throughout this if you're going to throw a dinner party. I think prep is the first thing. So understanding what you're going to cook is number one. So make your meal plan, right? Is it like, I'm going to cook a steak, and I'm going to cook, my salad's going to be this arugula salad, and these are the two appetizers, and this is my dessert. So the day before, a day or two before, you want to make sure you go to the grocery store, farmer's market, whatever, get your ingredients, make sure everything's clean. And the next day you want to prep it all. You want to chop whatever you need to chop. If it's your arugula salad that you're going to make, and shave your Parmesan, you want to wash it, dry it, store it, put the Parmesan aside, clean it, shave it, whatever you're going to do, put it aside, make your dressing, put that aside, label it, and have it all done. And do your prep work ahead of time. If you want, make sure your house is done. I always say it's not just the food you do, right? It's about your home too. So make sure your bathroom's clean. Make sure if you're going to do your candles, cut your candle wicks. Make sure your guest bathroom, if you have a guest bathroom whenever things are going to be normal, your toilet paper there is full and ready for that, for that toilet. Make sure your towels are clean for that. It's not, again, just about the food. You have a whole home that people are going to see. And it's the detail. So your food, you want to be prepped, ready. And if it's the main meal at that time, everything that you have is organized, ready, that all you have to do is throw it in the oven, take it out. Your table's already set the day before. Everything is done. Take it out and put it on the serving tray and put it out, or buffet, however you're going to do it. So you're enjoying your event. You're not stuck in the kitchen the whole time, because then you're not having fun at your event.
That's
and
right.
I think that's a key, right? I think that's a key. Unless you're, entertaining with your family, which it doesn't matter if you're in the kitchen cooking, that's, I think, is very different. But if you're throwing a dinner party, people are there to see you, and they want you to be there, or else they start to feel uncomfortable. And really, the part of the night is for you to make your guests feel comfortable. And if you're not there, they start to go, where's my host? Or else, it becomes awkward. So if you're prepared, then they feel fine. Or else they're not going to even remember the food.
I love that. It's so thoughtful. You really do think of every detail always.
Just think it's part of, they're there to see you, and you want to remember that.
If I'm calling for people to come over at 7, ideally, what time should I be planning to serve food? Because sometimes I used to mess that up in my first few dinner parties, where I was like, come at 7, and I was having my food ready at 7. But people aren't ready to eat right when they get to your house.
So then I would call people over to LA, right? So I always say people are always half an hour late. Like, expect everyone to be a half an hour late, because it's traffic.
Right.
Like, no one's ever there when you want them to be there. So if you want people over at 7, then dinner's not too late.
Got it.
Not too late. So 7, people trickle in at 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some drinks before, then dinner's at 8.
Right. They're going to peruse your beautiful board that you have on your island.
And nothing goes as planned. Dinner's never ready at 7:15. Like, you can't expect people to come and sit down. Like, I
know that's my rookie mistake.
It's never going to happen. So then call people in at 6:30. If you want dinner at 7, then call people in at 6. If you want dinner at 7:30, then 6:15, 6:30, because people are going to slowly, and no one's going to be there at 6:15 ever. Like, you'll have me, I'll show up at 6:15 because I'm 10 minutes, like, I'm an early bird.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the reality of it. And so, you want to remember then to have some food for people to graze at, just to, like, a cheese plate or something. And so if there's somebody there early, there's something to nosh on. But the theory is that no one's ever going to, unfortunately, because it is, if this was Europe, it'd be very different. But no one's ever going to be on time here.
Do you have any influences in your cooking, or is it just from your love of food and just trying different recipes all over the years?
God, I'd be a horrible human being if I said I didn't have influences. Yeah, if I always say this, I'm a latchkey child, right? My brothers are 10 and 9 years older than me. My parents were working full time when we came to the country. I was watching Jacques Pepin and Julia Child when most people were watching Scooby-Doo or,
And you were cooking for your family.
Yeah, I was cooking for my family only because I thought that would be the way that everybody would come together. It was a way that I assumed would bring everyone together, which was a unrealistic notion, but I was so young. But it was the theory that, everybody has to eat, which also was unrealistic, but everybody has to eat. But my parents had to work, and my brothers were so much older that they were living their lives at that time. They were, high school, or, my older brother was going off to college. But the theory was that if I cooked, everybody would have to come to a dinner table, and we would sit down like a nuclear family around a dinner table, and we would be I Love Lucy. But that is not the case, which we all know now.
But it does create that vibe. Like, I was talking about it all of in time. It's just, I think over the past couple of months, I think we've all been able to learn to enjoy that. I know I can speak for my family alone, where we're like, we're going to go out to eat a lot less because this is really nice.
Sure.
I grew up never going out to eat. We always ate at home, and it was I would be annoyed about it as a kid sometimes, but I'm so grateful we had that time every Monday through Friday as a family.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is something very special. I don't know if this is the greatest thing for the restaurant business, who really needs everybody's support right now, but I do think there is something extremely special about the fact of being together around a table with those you love, whether it's your family or your friends. But it is the idea, it is the theory of being surrounded, I mean, it's the same thing, being surrounded around food that brings people together. And it is that it's the common denominator that we all have to eat together. And somebody took the time to cook this for you. It's breaking bread. It goes back to breaking bread, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's tons, going back to the question. Yes, I've got tons and tons of it, influenced by so many people, and the list is so long. But I sit at the bar at times at Mota and just watch Nancy cook, or I sit at sushi bars at times and watch them with the precision of the knives and how it's the rice and the perfection, and at times I watch Evan Funky and the pasta, and or I go to Italy and all of it. Or I watch incredible patisseries and how they make the beautiful bread and pastries and all of it, and how they roll the dough. I mean, so many people put me in awe, and that's when I talk about chefs, right? I can never call myself a real chef because I put that in such a category of respect. And I'm very careful and making sure that I'm always like I'm a home cook. Yes, do I wear chefs? Of course, but there's such a respect level on a different level with what they've gone through, and it's just there's so many people with incredible talents out there that I would be doing a disservice naming only 10.
Yeah. Of course. But you also, like I said, there's something different. Everyone has something special about them. And it's maybe hard for you to recognize it in yourself. But as your friend, we all would say it's a no-brainer. Like, we all think you should have your own show because you just know how to make amazing, simple things amazing and attainable for all of us. And I appreciate that. And I want to start acknowledging some questions that are being asked by some of your lovely fans that are here. And if you want to ask any questions, just click on ask a question and go right ahead. But this is clearly, they don't think you've answered it, Melina. You have to answer it again. What is your favorite recipe in the book?
Well, I'll answer another one. So I did talk about the pork chop one is my favorite. The other one is the spaghetti recipe. I think is my other favorite.
And what's that exactly?
So, sorry. Okay, I'll get into it. So the other one is and I'm just going to make sure that I say the exact name correctly. And I was telling Jamie this earlier that it's been a minute. The spaghetti with pancetta and burrata. It's on 126. Okay. You forget, it's been such a minute that I've gone through this book because of COVID. But yeah, 126, this is my other favorite recipe. This is one of those that I talk about, the staples in your pantry, that if you have the basics, like the muti, even if the pancetta isn't fresh and you happen to have some, you bought a thing of pancetta and you threw it in your freezer. Yeah. I made this a lot during quarantine. Because I bought some pancetta and threw it in my freezer, and I always have some pasta, and I can make, I'm happy to make fresh pasta, but you don't, by the way, have to. This is one of those things. It's just basic pancetta, scallions, tomato paste. It is important on this recipe though to have double concentrated tomato paste. If you can't get it, you can buy this at Gelson's. You can buy it. Pavilion sometimes has it. It's a small can of tomato paste, and it's MUTTI, and you just need 1 can of it. Sometimes, if you can't find it, the double concentrate is in a tube. And again, Gelson's or Pavilions most of the time has it. I've never seen it at Ralph's, but those two stores I know typically have it. Whole Foods also has it in a different brand, but double concentrate is the key. Again, and then dried spaghetti is fine. Some chili flakes, pecorino. I like to do a 50-50 blend of pecorino and Parmesan Reggiano. If you don't, just do full Parmesan. Pecorino does tend to get a little salty if you do all pecorino. But that is one of my favorite recipes in the book.
I love that you share your hacks at the bottom of most of the recipes, because, you know, it just really feels like you're giving us the secret of how we can make it like you.
Yeah, I hope it helps. I think that's a little helpful. It does. Because if you don't know, you know, what a pecorino, like what a 50-50 is, then you're kind of torn. And again, I think if you're a chef or you're really accustomed to cooking or reading a lot of cookbooks, then you know that. But if you don't, and this is new to you, then I think that you get kind of, you know, I remember buying cookbooks early on and I was like, I don't know what that means. And then I would feel dumb or intimidated.
Of course.
And I don't like feeling that way. And I think that people stop cooking because they feel intimidated. I stopped baking in the beginning because I felt intimidated a lot. And the reason I love to cook, because I found that when I experimented, I got better. Mm-hmm. Baking, I found when I experimented, I got worse. So
baking, you really have to. It's really
science.
Yes.
Yeah. So I found that when I bought cookbooks and it was in grams and it was in this, I was like, what the? And it made me feel dumb.
Sure.
Nobody wants to feel dumb. So then when I got the confidence, and I started to bake even more, and then I got great at it. But you know, I think that if you explain it and you feel like you're, you know, okay, I got this. And so I really wanted to make people feel like they've got this. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
You can do this. And that was my first, like, I wanted to feel like, you know, I'm not a cookbook writer, but I can do this and you can come in and cook. You know what I mean? Like, That was my way of kind of taking this on.
Yeah, this isn't just going to be another beautiful cookbook that you're displaying in your kitchen. This is one that you're going to be grabbing. Talk to me about Jagger's first cake.
So the Jagger's my daughter, for all of us who don't know. And
this is the most beautiful picture of her.
Thank you. Feels a long time ago. So I wanted to make sure I made her first cake, and this goes back to baking, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not a baker, but it was important for me to do that. And I love this idea of this kind of naked cake thing. And so it was really essential for me to do it. And I thought it's going to be a plain vanilla kind of cake. And I just thought it would be important for other moms. I don't know why. I just thought it would be for you to connect and be able to do that for your child. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to put it out there just to do a very simple vanilla cake that still would be beautiful, and it didn't have to feel overwhelming, and it felt like you could do this and not be a professional baker. It
is beautiful.
That's just, and you pick some flowers. By the way, those flowers were picked from my backyard, and you could pick any flower from your backyard or the street. And that's what I talk about. You know, some of the hacks was you guys, you know, when it comes to Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it is, even right now, like go in your backyard or down the street. My husband picked, you know, a bunch of pine cones for our Thanksgiving decoration. I just had my second baby and I wasn't going to do Thanksgiving dinner. And then mom guilt sank in and I was like, go get some decorations. We're going to cook. Like, I can't believe I'm not going to do Thanksgiving dinner. And so he went and kind of like got a bunch of Thanksgiving, you know, pine cones that just fell on the floor, and we washed them, and we just, you know, those are the things we can do that don't cost any money. And I think it's important to know that we can do that. I mean, somebody said, well,
and show your kids that.
Yeah. Somebody said this book looks really expensive and you have to have a lot of money. I get that you could think that, but if you read through it, you could understand that you actually don't.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what this is. It's not just a cookbook. It's beyond. It's teaching you how to be an entertainer, a person that really sets the table, literally and figuratively, of welcoming people into your home and into a beautiful experience. I love your checklist too. I love a list. My little type A heart loves a list.
Virgos.
I'm a Taurus. Are Tauruses notorious for that? I don't know.
I can't answer that.
I don't know. But I mean, from like sweep outside, vacuum inside, all the things. I love this because I do love hosting a party, but I feel very amateur. But my intentions are good. But if I now that I have this,
but wouldn't you want to know that, right? Like,
of course,
clean outside.
Of course, turn on the music, all of it.
But the most important is give yourself 30 minutes to breathe, sit down outside before anybody shows up, have a glass of wine, and enjoy yourself. Like, that's the most important because you did all this work, and it should be about for you just to like sit back and take a minute.
And enjoy it.
Or else what's the point?
Amen. Well, your house is always one of my favorite places to go to when it comes to someone having a dinner party or entertaining. For the kids too, all of us, you're just the best at it.
Well,
so it was a no-brainer for you to write this book.
Well,
is there anything else you want to tell anybody about the book or you or anything else?
Well, I just think that it's really important for everyone just to like remember to take a breath and enjoy this time because we know we'll all go back to working a lot. This isn't going to last forever. So just enjoy our time with our families and our friends and ourselves, I think, you know, and then we'll go back to the norm.
And I know it could feel like this came at, you know, in a difficult time, but I think it came out at the perfect time because people are coming out of this with more of an appreciation for families, but also wanting to connect. And I think people will be having more parties and dinner parties, and now they will be very well prepared.
Look, I mean, I'm proud of it. I know that everybody worked on the team, worked really hard. So it does feel awkward to have like an entertaining cookbook coming out when no one's entertaining by any means. But we are really proud of it. I'm so thankful for everyone who worked hard, and the recipes are tried and true. So I can't wait for everybody to, you know, actually try the recipes and let me know which ones are your favorites and post them on Instagram because I do want to see what they turn out. There's nothing that makes me happier to see people who are like reading it and like trying the recipes out and showing the outcomes. There's so much better, sorry. And seeing the outcomes of what you guys cooked. So.
Oh, I bet.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. I love you.
I love you too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melina. And thank you, Jamie. That was awesome. Thank you to everybody for coming. Again, if you'd like to buy her cookbook, you can go ahead and click that green button down at the bottom. But with that all said, thank you all so much and have a good night.